When a theme is on the nose in any piece of media, I feel it must make up for it in the narrative, because the job of the movie is already done. It already knows what it wants to say, and there's no better way to accomplish this than to give us something that either expands on the theme or to give us something more memorable that pushes the subject matter to the side. This concept, I feel, is the most apparent with Frank Daramont's two prison stories, Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. I feel these two films are regarded in the way that they are because of how the conclusion sticks with you. With Shawshank, it's this admiration and appreciation that you have with Andy escaping. But today, I want to focus more on The Green Mile because its themes are broader. The conversation around God is very multifaceted because of the different ways people see God. I personally am not religious, but I find it really fascinating. I really find it really fascinating that how we see God in so much different ways. But I have two specific views that make things more interesting. The first one that I have recently learned in my U.S. history class for college. It was apparently one of the things that Thomas Jefferson was famous for at the time, and I guess was abandoned by history, because like I've never really heard about this at all in grad school, even like and it feels like that way as well because my professor kind of mentioned it as like like a side note that people, it's like, oh yeah, this, so I guess people don't really know. But besides that, he Thomas Jefferson viewed the world as God's creation, but that he abandoned all of us, which is a point of view that leans to more logic. I think you already know where I'm going with this if you already seen the movie. The parallels to Jesus are very obvious, but the questions that I propose is what convinced God to come back? To look back over his shoulder and face his cruel, harsh, and rapidly evolving creation. But whatever happened, we will never know. But we do know for sure that he made John Coffey, a man made as a test. Jesus made God's permanent mark on the world to make people recognize his presence. John Coffey is more human, and I would say more an experiment than anything else, which perfectly ties into my second view, that God put us on this earth as a trial to see if we should get into heaven, which also prevents a more rational point of view. But the main point I'm trying to get at centers around John's crisis and the weight of having God's powers. God made who he is from the simplest details like his skin color, which I feel plays a really bigger role into why he created him, and to his divine powers at his core. The big difference between John and Jesus is the fact that John has free will. God gave him free will to ponder and question on why it had to be him. That was God's biggest mistake, making John, like everyone else, to experience the human condition, to basically give him the choice of all choices. It's a pretty ballsy move by God, I would say, because and when I said earlier that I feel like his skin color was made on purpose, I feel it is. He put God there as like God made John as a vessel, a more like human, as like a human like version of Jesus, to see like the good in humanity. That's how I feel about what the Green Mile was trying to convince. But he also gave him the human condition, the chance to have free will, to give him the choice, as I said, to give him the choice of all choices. But if you've seen the movie, he didn't necessarily make the wrong choice. I would say that the choice is poignant because he did make an impact. He didn't necessarily do exactly I feel about what God set out to do. He made an impact on the lives of our characters in the Green Mile itself by choosing to at least do something positive with his powers in his final days. And the cherry on top on all of this big on this big like thick cake is the question of Tom Hanks's character at the end, feeling like he should be punished for playing, killing, and cheating God because he lived to 108, you know? So, like, the question leaves us somber and subdued, which makes just as much as an impactful ending than Shawshank's ending, which is actually the direct opposite. The direct opposite. But to tie this back all the way to the concept and the start, the only criticism that I have of both movies is that they're both basic in their execution. Like, for example, I predicted the ending of Shawshank and everything leading up to the ending, with the spoons and the hole and him escaping and whatever. Same with The Green Mile, to an extent. I feel that they both give us the bare minimum when it comes to plots. And, like, a good example of the concept that I mentioned that I stated is Election, because its silly nature makes the scenes stand out more in your mind. And I understand why Shawshank and Green Mile are considered the best, because they both tackle very human themes, I think Green Mile uh, tackles very, like, heavy themes, but I can also admit that there is really not anything outstanding or innovative in the grand scheme of things. This is not necessary to say I hate Shawshank or The Green Mile. It's just it's not really anything stand out. So that's all I have to say. I gave The Green Mile 4 stars. Also, as Shawshank 4 stars because, they are decent. That's it. See ya.